Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Well, I have yet to see a comic book that prominently features his egg sacs, so many questions remain. Nonetheless, guys, it's Paul, and today we are checking out Spicy Sarcastic Super Jerk Russian Badger's breakdown of Spider-Man for the PS4. Let's get into it.
That'll teach those orphans not to fuck with me. Oh, God.
Oh man, this is starting off serious. So serious that I might not be able to have that level of profanity this early in the video. So I'm going to take this moment to tell you to subscribe to me on Twitch, twitch.tv/combatvetpaul. We stream all the time, and we have a lot of fun. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and sometimes Saturday. Live reactions, Team Fortress 2, Escape from Tarkov, and any other games that strike my fancy.
The hell is that? Oh shit, my pizza! Come on, hit me. Just shift your feet, put fist to face, and hit me. Like that? Yeah, that's it. Only this time, you gotta hit me. Come on, hit me! Hit me! Oh, my fucking molar!
I can't tell if this is in-game footage or not.
Your marketing department cooked that name up?
Spoiler/shitpost alert! If you're worried about me spoiling the plot or breaking your immersion, please find another video.
Don't worry, guys. This video is 3 years old, so if there's spoilers, dude, that ship sailed.
Spider-Man is back. He's still shooting sticky stuff into the faces of grown men and still not paying his goddamned rent. It's the student loans, Yuri. Just give me some cash. Only this time, instead of J. Jonah Jameson screaming, "Get me more pictures of Spider-Man," it's a little bit more like, "Get me more enemies of Spider-Man."
Okay, guys, why might a superhero with a lot of clout, right, not be able to pay his rent? This is one of the things that is actually a real world parallel to celebrity, is that being famous isn't always the same thing as being wealthy. Now, classic example of one of my favorites, at least, are the rappers, right? There's something about being a hip-hop artist or rapper that requires you to exhibit this very, very flashy lifestyle. And certainly some people make enough money that that lifestyle is real. Jay-Z really makes that kind of money. But there's a lot that obviously do not make that kind of money and still sort of pretend that that's the case. I believe it was like Little Bow Wow, who was a rapper who was big about 10 years ago, posted a picture on their Instagram showing them taking a private jet to, it was like the VMAs. And then someone in coach on another flight to California was like, "Wow, I'm sitting next to Little Bow Wow," and took a picture and uploaded it, right? Calling him out for not flying on a private jet. And the reason that those sort of things happen is twofold. One, a lot of money. When you have a lot of money coming in, you spend it like it's going to keep coming in at that rate. So again, if you're Little Bow Wow and you establish, let's say you buy a house with a $100,000 a month mortgage, right? So probably like a $10 million house. So you've got this $100,000 a month mortgage, but you have to, pay it, obviously. Well, if you bought it when you were at your peak, and then you had your popularity drop in half or drop by 2/3, suddenly that house is now a huge burden. And the more expensive a house is, the harder it is to sell for what you paid for it, right? Because rich people don't want Little Bow Wow's house, they want their own house. And so they're going to have to renovate basically the entire thing to reflect their style and preferences. Now, this applies to a lot of facets of a lifestyle. Athletes are prone to the exact same thing, right? Where they establish a lifestyle when they are at their peak playing and earning potential, but then when their earnings diminish, their lifestyle cannot be cut back. Again, look at you buy a performance supercar. Right? These are, of course, very expensive cars at the outset, but also extremely expensive to maintain. It's like people always say about BMWs, you never buy a used BMW because maintenance is so incredibly expensive. And all of this, of course, it doesn't even include the fact that for musicians in particular, is that they often sign very onerous and very, very shady record deals. And these record deals often include some level of advance. You get advanced more money than that artist can responsibly have. Right? So think like a 19-year-old artist who receives $500,000, but the record label says this is to produce and record your album. And so what it's supposed to be is about $100,000 for them to maintain their lifestyle and living expenses, and about the rest of it more or less should go towards things like recording or producing, mixing, mastering, if they need to have guests on their album, if they need to have backup musicians, if they need to get the licensing for tracks, all of that, plus promotional materials, other things. And record companies will either pay that as an advance that has to be paid back after the record drops, or they will literally front the money and say, hey, we're going to take this out of record sales before you get paid. And the record companies, of course, have, even if some of these artists just don't sell, they just never recompensate the record company for what they paid to produce the record, or songs in this case. But even when they do, oftentimes they only just get over the hump, right? And so you may be a multi-platinum artist who only makes about $100,000 a year, or $200,000, or let's say you make $500,000, but then it's going to take you at least another 3 years to make another album, right? So your income goes spike, steady, 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 spike, steady, steady, steady. Again, and that's a lot of it is because of these somewhat exploitive record deals. Because often, of course, the record company and its subsidiaries own the recording studio, the producers work for them, the mixing and mastering people work for them. And so, yeah, the record company goes, oh, we had to pay a lot to get this recording done, but it's really the record company's self-dealing. So all this to say, it's totally feasible that you could be Spider-Man level famous, but still be unable to pay your rent.
Ugh, this ought to be good. Which enemies, you might ask? How about Dr. Octopus, Rhino, Mr. Negative, Vulture, Electro, and Scorpion, aka the Sinister Six? Wow, that's a little much. I know I'm a superhero, but that's 6 guys. Plus Shocker, plus Taskmaster, plus Devil's Breath, plus Sable and her mercs, plus Tombstone, who, by the way, is not a gigantic pizza.
Really missed an opportunity there. I mean, why would Spider-Man would never fight a pizza, guys? Pizza is everyone's friend. Pizza cannot harm us. Except for maybe pineapple.
Like I was expecting. Goddamn, that's like 9 dudes, an infectious disease, and a giant frozen pizza. Can't you guys just call in the National Guard? Plus the marketing department. I almost forgot about them. That's who you're up against. And I know you may counter by saying, isn't the marketing department just another way of saying Tombstone? To which I reply, yes, because Tombstone, well, he is the marketing department. I am the marketing department.
Is this true? The marketing department?
Now you may be thinking that this monumental dream team
is this, I actually don't understand. Is the marketing department like a euphemism for another group of villains in the Spider-Man universe?
the Spidey Boy is up against makes for a daunting campaign, and it does. But I had such a blast with it that I beat it once normally and beat it again via New Game Plus in the old school comic costume so that I could channel my inner shitposting Spider.
Oh, okay. I thought he had added himself into the video, but I guess this is pre-mocap Russian Badger.
Spider-Man's Super Jerk.
How is this happening?
Do you not know who Spider-Man is? Thankfully, this burdensome task becomes much easier once you realize how retarded overpowered Spider-Man is right now, and I hate myself for even mentioning this, but in case you're blinder than Daredevil, his movement skills are smoother than Jif peanut butter. You want to jump 90 feet in the air? Look out! Here comes Spider-Man! Done. You want to swing 3 blocks? Done. Spring like a gazelle off of any sturdy surface? Done. Ride the subway and pretend you're not really Spider-Man? Done. Give gravity the middle finger and spin around for 3 hours? Done. Well, technically that's a suit power, but we'll cover that later.
Yeah, this is, it's not only not realistic, but physically, it would be hard to achieve something like that. Yes, yes, some spiders can jump really, really, really high, but their whole bodies are basically little hydraulic presses, if I remember correctly, and that's what gives them their spring effect in their legs. If you have human physiology still stuck in your legs, right, you won't be able to generate the power. It just, muscle tissue, the way it works, right, electrical contractions, will never generate the physical power to propel you that much. And also, biology operates at scales. Okay, so let's say you wanted to make an ant twice as strong, right? You would only have to increase that ant's lifting abilities only a fraction of a gram, right? It's not that hard to do relative to, say, doubling your strength as a human being, right? You would have to probably gain a significant amount of weight and gain a significant amount of muscle mass. It would take you years if you could ever even achieve it. Now, and of course, if you look at things like dinosaurs, right? They are about as large as a creature can get or could have gotten, and they come up against sort of biological limits where, for example, the heart can't actually get blood to the extremities easily. Like, the heart just can't get bigger and bigger. You just sort of run out of momentum. You also run into issues where electrical currents in the brain struggle to communicate across those distances and still be responsive. So there's, as biological scale grows, the ability to perform different things and the abilities of those biological creatures changes, right? Even at, again, if you were to have like something larger than a T-Rex, you would start to get into issues where biological tissue like bone may not be able to even take the strain of that much weight being on the legs. This was 15 minutes of me explaining that Spider-Man isn't realistic.
I said we'll cover that later! And if you think Spidey's movement is overpowered, then your fighting skills are downright ludicrous, because you've got an endless number of ways to turn your enemies into vegetables. Not actual vegetables, like the carrots that Aunt May can't seem to cut correctly because my PS4 Pro refuses to accurately render them, or maybe she's got dementia or something. Aunt May, that isn't how you cut carrots! I mean figurative, I can't talk anymore because Spider-
Yeah, one of the things that is actually the hardest about caring for loved ones as who have dementia or Alzheimer's is, you know, ensuring that they are safe, right? Because a lot of times you have the diminished capacity and you also have a diminished motor neuron skill, and so it depends. This is what makes dementias and Alzheimer's diseases so dangerous and devastating, is that the damage to the brain is not uniform, and it's not the same in everyone. And so different people will have all different manifestations. Some people will experience mood changes long before they experience motor difficulties. Some people will notice that they're falling a lot more and they feel much more uncoordinated, and that'll be the first symptom. Some people will experience memory loss and memory difficulties, right? Sometimes with long-term memories. Sometimes it'll be things like focus and attention. So Aunt May must go, oh, I need to cut the carrots. And Spider-Man gets home and goes, hey, or Peter Parker gets home and goes, hey, Aunt May, you've cut every carrot in the house. And she's like, oh, I guess I lost track of things, right? That's the sort of effects that you end up with. And it's because, right, the damage to the brain is occurring in all different areas, right? The buildup, the lesions, whatever it is, they occur in different places at different times, meaning that it can manifest in so many different ways. And it's hard for a caretaker because we can only give general guidance, right? When is your loved one no longer safe to have a knife? Well, the answer is it depends on a lot of different factors, and really only you will know. And unfortunately, you may only find out once they, you may only find out they can't use the stove once they've lit the kitchen on fire.
Spider-Man gave me traumatic brain damage and I will never perform motor functions ever again. Type vegetable.
Yeah, this is also sad because, as you can see, he's giving all of these henchmen multiple concussions, which we definitely know that is a specific type of dementia itself called dementia pugilistica, named, of course, that because it's the boxer's dementia, or a punch drunk is sometimes what it's referred to. But it's more serious than that. It is a dementia that you get from repeated trauma to the head.
That's a trip to the ICU. But hey, just like in Justice.
And of course, it also has its little cousin, CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is the dementia-like condition, again, that occurs not from repeated concussive blows, right? Dementia pugilistica was thought for a long time to be a function of knockouts, right? Actual concussions that happen repeatedly in the course of a boxer's career. Now we probably know that it and CTE exist on a spectrum, and CTE is for people that may not have zero diagnosed concussions and yet still have dementia-like symptoms later in life.
This is too, as long as you're non-lethal and they don't die, everything is a-okay.
So you won't kill, but you're fine with traumatic brain injuries.
So yes, you can beat the shit out of people, but why do that when you're basically a character ripped out of an MMORPG with a big-ass scroll wheel that I like to call spammable sticky shit that's basically cheating? The beginner tier is your basic webbing that can stick enemies to surfaces or wrap them up like a burrito to be thrown off of a skyscraper.
Get over here! Yeet!
1, 2, 3, 4, and alley-oop! He's definitely alive. The intermediate tier is your impact web, which basically does the same thing, only instantly, and hits enemies like a belt from a stepfather. Hey buddy, hold.
Whoa, dark. This is a lot of like dark, edgy humor.
Just tuck your knees, you'll be fine. And then shit just goes totally off the rails, like spider drones, electric webs, web bombs, trip mines, suspension matrices, just a bunch of shit that makes the booby traps of Vietnam look like amateur hour. But personally, I usually stick with a concussion blast, because why would I deal with each baddie individually when I can just unleash a single unrelenting force and call it a day? Foos!
That's the way to do it. Though knocking people off a ledge seems really, really cruel. Again, in the US, we have what's called a prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. And what that usually indicates is, of course, that it's a little bit of a subjective prohibition, but generally there are certain punishments that the US has agreed is acceptable. And these, bizarrely enough, can include killing someone, but it does not include making them live in substandard, inadequate conditions. Usually those standards are pretty low. But there are some judges, for example, have ruled that there are some prisons, I think in like Louisiana was most recent, that are so cruel, so overcrowded that living in them constitutes cruel and unusual punishment. Because of the lack of privacy, the lack of ability to get care, and one, that's pretty bad. But two, they can say, okay, you can be in jail, that's not cruel and unusual, but if the jail is too shitty, then you can't, it's too much, it's too cruel, and it's unconstitutional. So it's sort of a subjective thing, but the idea, of course, is that you can't just sort of inflict punishments willy-nilly. Again, for example, subjecting someone who is maybe a criminal to traumatic brain injury to the point where they need to be, can no longer remember their name or are unable to eat or care for themselves on their own is unbelievably cruel, actually. And it's tough to say, right? If you're a henchman or a petty criminal, what is a fair punishment for a petty criminal or a henchman, right? Is it to get beaten to a pulp? Is it to get kicked off a ledge? at some point you might have to say, hey, this Spider-Man has killed a dozen people who, if they were brought to trial, would get, what, 5, 6 years, maybe 10 years, and they're out in 5.
Rhoda! Hey fellas, is it just me or is it a bit...
Instead, you've left them with permanent injuries. It's not clear that they're killing people.
Windy up here! Where's Bush? Oh, he survived! The major mechanic beyond sticky spider garbage that you're spamming at people is called focus. And the faster you clobber your enemies, the faster this bar builds that allows you to either heal yourself or hit up a finisher move that's guaranteed to put the recipient into a coma. Ow, my foot hurts now! I would tell you that there's a shit ton of dodging involved in fighting, but I think your spidey senses were already tingling. I sense a faint smell of danger.
You sense a faint smell. Huh.
Aw shit, that's a gun. Once you've gotten a grasp on the basics, you're introduced to some familiar faces like Yuri Watanabe, who's your Commissioner Gordon for all you Batman fans out there, that's simultaneously helpful and really sick of your shit.
Spider Cop.
Yeah, can you imagine how annoying it is to be like, hey, we have 15 dead guys at the bottom of a building, and then your cops have to show up and be like, well, they must have been henchmen. We guess, because, like, they're in civilian clothes, but I guess some of them might have had guns at one point. And, like, some of them, right, you get knocked off a building, you don't carry an ID, you don't have a tattoo that says henchman, right? You're just a regular guy in a leather jacket and jeans who's now dead at the bottom of a building. It's a homicide. In fact, most homicides, based on this gameplay, most homicides in New York City are Spider-Man related.
Please no.
The chief never did understand Spider Cop. Thought he was a loose cannon.
Already regretting this.
Spider Cop is officially retired.
Oh, thank God. I need a drink.
J. Jonah Jameson, who ditched the Daily Bugle for a podcast, and for those of you too young to have enjoyed J.K. Simmons in the original Spider-Man.
Cash money for a picture of Spider-Man. He doesn't want to be famous, and I'll make him infamous.
Is basically if Dr. Disrespect was obsessed with superheroes and had a podcast.
This is Just the Facts with J. Jonah Jameson, where
Okay, that's actually pretty brilliant. I love that.
listeners like you discuss the issues affecting our city with Pulitzer Prize winning two-time Pulitzer Prize winning.
And of course,
That's brilliant, actually. That's a brilliant Easter egg. That, like, warms my heart, actually.
Mary Jane Watson. And heed my warning as I say this.
The worst fucking part of the entire goddamn game.
I know this sounds like a joke, but in the campaign, she quite literally wants to be your partner.
No, not a sidekick. A partner.
Interesting idea, MJ, but what about that whole part where you don't have a fucking superpower, you moron? Her character is nothing short of dumb, naive, and nagging.
I may not have super spider powers, but I'm not made out of glass.
Heading down to Med Central. A couple of suspects down here.
Mix. Like the last 6 months never happened.
But above all else, her inclusion in gameplay just doesn't make sense. Same goes for that punk kid Miles too. Like, why is she here?
What are you doing here?
She's got a ton of mandatory stealth missions that are such a joke, because in each one of them, I was thinking to myself, Spider-Man could have done this 10 times easier, 10 times faster, with virtually zero risk, because, you know, he's fucking Spider-Man, and he has these things called superpowers.
Yeah, guys, this is actually one of the things that really, really bothers me about wannabe tough guys, people that think it's their job to intervene in other conflicts. I'm here to tell you that if you see a bar fight, a robbery, somebody yelling at someone in public, right? Someone driving around in their car in a way you don't like. I'm not trying to tell you this, but as a society, we do pay people to handle just this sort of thing. They have training. They have equipment. Are they always like superheroes with impeccable moral compasses? No. Is it a great system? It's not perfect. But here's the thing. Look how many people who are stopping a crime either get killed commit a crime themselves, don't understand the situation, and end up on a viral video, right? It is a really dumb decision. And there's a lot of people, I think, who could really stand to just sort of stay away, especially from dangerous situations, guys. If you see a situation that is dangerous, you don't know how dangerous it is, but you don't have superpowers, right? So you might as well leave it to someone who at least shows up with a proper vest, handcuffs, and the legal authority to ask for backup.
That place is crawling with guards. How are you trying to reach him?
The taser eventually makes things bearable, but why the hell is MJ even a part of this game outside of mild hints or cutscenes like a Yuri Watanabe?
Yuri, this place is full of fist guys with suspicious bulges.
I can't order a raid over bulges.
Instead of having a skip button on the puzzles, they should have put it on the stealth missions of Miles and MJ, because they're not even good stealth. Like Splinter Cell, they're just linear, predictable stealth that's wedged into the plot for character development that nobody cares about.
Huh? What was that? What dumbass can't put their shit away?
Thankfully, for all of the
What's that noise? God, I love henchmen who are just like, what's that noise? Let's investigate.
downside of MJ and Miles, there's the upside of other characters. Like, don't even try to tell me that Silver Sable isn't best girl. Ding dong, your opinion is wrong. You missed all of those shots, but I don't even care, your hair is so perfect. And Black Cat is in the same boat, because with her obvious skills in deadly acrobatics and self-reliance, she would have been a true partner for Peter instead of the wannabe superhero intern that MJ is. God, you are such a bummer. But the ultimate redemption for having such a shitty time with MJ/Miles? This guy. Oh shit, it's my main man, Taskmaster.
I feel like I missed something. I grew up reading Spider-Man comics. Yeah, that's how old I am. I read the comics before there was even a movie. They hadn't even made a movie. But Taskmaster, like, I don't know who Taskmaster is. I have no idea who this villain is. I mean, he looks like he should be a playable character in like Apex or Valorant, I'm gonna be honest.
Name's Taskmaster.
Much like Tombstone, the only crime the Taskmaster committed was not being in the game more often, because with his baller-ass suit and dry tone, I'm so butthurt that he's only a side mission and not a full-blown main character.
I've got toe-to-toe with the Avengers. You're nothing. I'm impressed.
And yet you sound like you want to kill me.
Not yet.
I beat you, you ran away. Conclusion, you lose.
Not yet.
He's one of the many characters that you'll meet while not doing story missions that I'll just go ahead and label activities.
Who is this?
Wrong question.
I mean, to be fair, guys, there's a lot of games that do exactly this. In fact, I think it's Ubisoft that loves this format. Ghost Recon Wildlands, a game I actually thoroughly enjoyed, has exactly this format. Yeah, there's like a loose story mission you kind of got to progress through, but most of the fun is in just doing random activities, knocking off convoys, hunting the Predator for some reason, flying airplanes through mountains, dodging SAMs with a single-engine Cessna. It's a pleasure, and the best parts are not doing the story.
The correct one is, can you stop the bombs I've planted?
His particular type of activities are challenges like defusing bombs that are about to explode, and the faster you perform, the more handsomely you're rewarded.
A group of mercenaries are about to kill a diplomat. Better hurry.
But there's plenty of
Not to kill a diplomat. Okay, guys. So yeah, there's this principle called diplomatic immunity, and it's actually been around for a long time. What used to happen in the pre-modern era was that kings would grant their diplomats safe passage, and what would they call them? Grant them letters, usually bearing the king's seal, that would say, hey, this person has the right to traverse through this territory because they are a diplomat. They are an assigned diplomat representing another king. And this, again, dates all the way back to Marco Polo or even earlier. And the idea is that there has to be a channel for communication to happen between rival countries or nations or kingdoms. And the only way to ensure that is to have an agreed upon set of rules by which the means of communication, i.e. diplomats, can safely pass from country to country. Even the United States, even when Russia was identified as having participated in a robust and pretty dangerous election hacking scheme, the Russian diplomats were only expelled. They were just politely told to leave and sent back home. The Russian diplomats, of course, did so, but it was seen as a polite move, right, to not have them, say, arrested. You'll notice that sometimes U.S. nationals or foreign nationals are arrested in other countries. There was a Chinese CEO, for example, that was arrested and detained in Canada a few years ago, but they are not diplomats. If you have a diplomatic passport, the rules are different. That's why the old Lethal Weapon line about it's diplomatic immunity, it's just been revoked, that would actually be an international incident and a huge violation of international norms. And the damage to the reputation of that country almost certainly outweighed whatever that guy was trying to like steal.
Other activities to give you a brief respite from the terrible stealth.
All that to say, mercenaries killing diplomats is a bad look, though probably it might be done just to, well, damage that home country's perception. But we've talked about this in other videos. There's always two causes to war: the proximate cause, such as killing a diplomat, and the real cause, which usually means a fundamental power, zero-sum power stake that's occurring, for example, between a rising power and the existing superpower. That is the real cause of conflict, right? A rising power running up against that existing power in the region or in the world, and that's the cause of the war. And then they usually just wait for some sort of excuse, some sort of specific breakdown of the situation that necessitates it. Because when there isn't, there's always a way to diffuse these conflicts. When neither party actually wants a war, they will find a way around almost every type of border skirmish. Border skirmish or dead diplomat or whatever.
Missions like sinking comm towers to give you a better visual on the map, taking pictures of dumbass cats for Felicia, and collecting old backpacks, which is kinda neat, I guess.
An unpaid medical bill? That's a good place to put that.
You can capture pigeons for a homeless guy, which is not only fun, but also hilarious, because how are you spending your time while crime is everywhere, the city's on fire, and the bad guys are trying to release the deadly devil's breath?
Mountain Dew Code Red, dun 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 dun. Can you still buy that?
Epidemic?
So basically, I'm pigeon. Don't you know about the bird? Well, everybody knows that the bird is the word.
You'll also be taking pictures of landmarks, or really anything else that catches your eye. The majority of these activities are just random crime that you'll come across where you need to ball up the baddies or kick somebody out of a moving vehicle, which is harder than you may expect.
I don't got it.
But above all else, the brilliant subtlety of Harry Osborn's challenges are hilarious. So get this. He's got these outposts.
Oh, okay. Wow, I like that. That was a Scarlet Spider outfit, guys. If you guys didn't read the comics in the 90s, you know that the Scarlet Spider was originally like an edgy, at the time, this was an edgy look, by the way, an edgy reboot of Spider-Man, though in response to a fan backlash, or maybe it was already planned, they actually revealed that the Scarlet Spider was a clone of Peter Parker named Ben Reilly, I think. And then the real Peter Parker came back and his powers came back and he was able to be classic Spider-Man. So then Spider-Man and Scarlet Spider were just two different superheroes.
Where you have to swing through clouds of...
That said, the Scarlet Spider look, the sleeveless hoodie, that's a jam, man. That's an early 90s throwback. I think you could rock that today, honestly.
Gas filled with toxins and carcinogens, with the end goal of identifying where the pollution is coming from and stopping the source.
The idea is to catch the, contaminants before they reach toxic levels. Between you and me, I think Oscorp wants this to fail because it might show they're polluting.
And in case the cartoon Spidey suit doesn't make it already obvious, these are posts where you swing through toxic gas, sacrificing your own health to stop the culprits. So what I'm saying is, This post gives you cancer.
That post gave me cancer. Thanks a lot.
You can thank me by not dying.
But giving yourself cancer isn't all bad, because these activities like backpack collection, bomb disposal, and crime fighting grant you various tokens that allow you to upgrade your Spidey boy into a Spider-Man.
Jesus Christ.
Portals will never stop me.
On my first playthrough, I basically blew it all in the suits because my goodness, does the game ever have some god tier suits.
I will endure 1,000 deaths before I yield.
Damn, that's some dark Spider-Man stuff, man. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. I love how he's using his line from the Space Marine. Even though this guy looks nothing like a Space Marine, he just looks like Death Spider.
All right, I give up.
The white 2099 suit, the stealth suit, the Spirit Spider suit, even the Scarlet Spider.
Man, I was hoping you were really Spider-Man. That cheap suit ain't fooling anybody.
You sure about that?
And although I'm a little poop...
love some trolling. Trolling NPCs in video games, guys, is the best. One of the things I always find is really funny is when you're walking around in a video game with really pretty, like, well-done NPCs, and you just listen to the preposterous conversations, you can be like, wow, these NPCs have the goofiest conversations. And then what you need to do is go downtown in your city during, like, regular business hours, like not in the tourist district, and just sit on a bench and then listen to those conversations. And instead you'll go, holy crap, these guys made the most realistic conversations I've ever heard.
Super pain that there's no Carnage suit.
It's actually a lot of fun to, like, put down your phone, take out your headphones, and just listen to people's conversations. Because nowadays everyone assumes that no one else is listening, and that's, like, basically correct. But if you do listen, you will hear some weird snippets.
Suit like the last game, I'll let it slide because the vintage suit exists, and you can get pretty close to Venom with the stealth suit and the right filter.
We are Venom.
Gotta stop Julie.
But these suits aren't just a cosmetic upgrade to Peter, because with each new suit unlocked, you unlock a new super ability called the Suit Power to really take it to the baddies.
All right, let's do this.
You want to look like a comfy leather chair, zapping your enemies and lagging your PS4 Pro with each punch? Electrically insulated is a natural choice.
Ah, my frame!
You want to blast a...
Gotta love that electrically insulated suit. So... okay, if you're like, what is the deal with electrically insulated stuff? Well, the answer is, of course, electricity passes through different objects with different levels of resistance. And electricity is always trying to seek out and take the path of the least resistance. And so there is no true full, complete, perfect insulation. There's just stuff that if you have it will hopefully divert the electricity around you. This is why people talk about, oh, rubber will stop a lightning strike. That may be true because the lightning always wants to go to ground. And yes, rubber is so hard for electricity to pass through that often it will find it more efficient to just go around and strike and pass through the air to strike the ground. But because as human beings, we are 70% water, water is really, really easy for electricity to pass through. So when it sees us, it just loves the fact we're so much easier to pass through than air that it really will go ahead and do that. Easier still is electricity. That's why a lot of these towers have lightning rods, deliberately to create this extremely easy path for the electricity overhead to go down, right? So that it doesn't try to divert through, the building or the people in it.
A fat nut on everybody in a 30-foot radius? Hit up Web Blossom with the classic suit. Just be careful busting around Felicia. She may want to try to get child support.
Damn! It really do be like that in November.
Make yourself a...
Okay, guy. Okay.
True Spider-Man with additional spider arms. Throw out 3 decoys to give your enemies cognitive dissonance. Even hit up
That's not what cognitive dissonance is. Cognitive dissonance is the term when you believe 2 things at the same time and your brain has to reconcile those, or it can be stressful. Studies have shown that it is a physical almost a physical level of stress and anxiety that you get when you have to hold two contradicting beliefs. These are sometimes, for example, I support free speech, but we need to silence the people whom I don't agree with, right? You cannot hold both of those things to be true, and you'll have to resolve those feelings somehow. So some people create a third argument, right? They'll have the but, you need X, but I believe X, but Y. Some people will create this sort of third way. Some people will adopt extreme versions of their belief, but usually it is impossible, not impossible, very difficult for a person to hold two different ideas. And that is what we talk about when we say cognitive dissonance. It can also be between thought and actions, like we should use less fossil fuels, but you drive a Hummer every day. And so to resolve that cognitive dissonance, you usually will come up with some sort of rationalization. For example, but I don't drive my Hummer that far, or I need my Hummer because X, but no one else does.
Strike that makes you hit harder than Metal Mario. You're insisting on a fisting. I'm a little shitter shattered that they didn't include either a Pretzel Spider-Man or a Timberland Spider-Man, but hey, maybe it'll be DLC. I really, really hope it's DLC.
Actually tying the laces on your Tims? Yeah, I'm sending this to the cops.
But you can spend your tokens elsewhere, because on my second playthrough, I blew it all on upgrading suit mods and gadgets to enhance my incessant web spamming.
This is what I like to call getting dumpster.
That basically means that your concussions are that much more powerful.
Today's forecast is windy, with a chance it's windier.
Your webbing hits that much harder.
God, they're like bouncy balls now.
And everything about fighting becomes that much more effortless.
Don't worry, buddy, I'm not gonna hurt you. What do you get?
I love how he's splicing in the Mortal Kombat, just to remind you that while it's done in a comic book fashion, these are really traumatic injuries. I mean, honestly, the force needed to uppercut someone to launch them 15 feet in the air will almost instantly snap their spine.
You fell for that.
My favorite is webbing somebody to a mailbox or a trash can and yeeting it across the block. It's truly the best way to dispose of mortal scum.
Yeet! They call me the Trash Man. Catch, buddy. Yes. Yeet! My God, what have I done? Can I get an F in chat? Wait, is it a felony if this is a mailbox?
Yeah, it is actually. Destroying a mailbox is a felony.
Oh God,
you'll do time in federal prison, which, like we talked about, is people are like, oh, federal prison's worse. No. Federal prison is better because it's closer to being properly funded, right? What you don't want to do is spend time in like the county jail or state penitentiary in a state that doesn't really fund their prisons, i.e. like Louisiana or even California. And the result, of course, is that if you do a felony, you want to go to federal prison, right? It's a little bit more properly funded. The best, of course, from what I've heard, is actually, believe it or not, military prison. Military prisons, because the military screens out people with criminal records, there's just not as many people in military prison. And so they are able to properly fund it. There's only a couple of prisons or brigs or whatever you want to call it. There's another term for it. It's not detention. It's it'll come to me. But the point is that it's actually considered one of the nicer facilities.
I think he's stuck. Is this what murder looks like? Am I a murderer now?
You've been a murderer this whole time.
Need these upgrades to take down Mr. Negative, whose goons aren't nearly as difficult as they are, in the words of Morbo from Futurama,
belligerent and numerous.
Mr. Negative himself isn't that cool because he's essentially just an eyes glow meme come to life.
Looking at the security footage, the guard was in some kind of trance. And it might have been the lighting, but it looked like his eyes were glowing.
But he does occupy the bulk of the missions, including the APC and Crane missions, which are just the best, so I don't know how to feel. Scorpion's section is also top tier, given the visuals, but the difficulty is just hilarious.
Now, if I were a dumbass scorpion dripping with Mountain Dew, where would I be?
Behind you!
What's that? One scorpion doesn't scare you? How about 6 scorpions? You're not dying to the giant stinger popping out of the Mountain Dew oasis?
What?
How about 10 stingers? But nobody, and I mean nobody, compares to the biggest enemies in the game.
Heavy boys.
Swordsmen, easy. Small users, easy. Every villain in the campaign, I sleep. Oh lord, it's the heavy boys.
Real shit.
Absolute fucking nightmares. They must all be genetic descendants.
Guys, there is a reason that the UFC has weight classes, and that is because size has a quality all its own, and that quality is big. And if you've ever done any martial art, you know that being big, yeah, you're right, you get a little speed advantage, you have a little cardio advantage when you're lighter weight, but just the ability to put all that extra weight and muscle behind your blows or your grappling or your throws or your takedowns can be so incredibly decisive that it literally isn't a fair fight. And this is true here, right? We like to, in movies, have the, like, Spider-Man. Yeah, if you have Spider-Man level superpowers. But in the real world, if you're 160 pounds, you just don't have much of a chance against someone who is, 250 pounds of muscle who is worked out. And if you've ever done any jiu-jitsu, you know that if a big guy with a medium amount of skill can actually be very competitive against a Spider-Man sized guy with a high level of skill. That's just how decisive weight can be.
Of Kingpin, Syndrome, or an M1A1 Abrams because they're no-nonsense tanks that are denser than iridium.
And concrete mix. And cinder block. And pipe in the face. And wooden wheel. You dense mother...
You've got to use 2 bars of focus to perform a finisher on them, and their only weakness is gravity.
Lifting you up, webbing you up.
Maybe in the Marvel universe, being big is even more decisive than it is in our universe, since apparently they are less able to get concussed, even by things being thrown at them.
And heavy boy, I'd like you to meet physics.
I'd say Tombstone's crackheads are the closest thing to heavy boys because they're kind of like mini supervillains.
Yeah! Let's go, come on! Crack is whack!
But they've also got an Achilles heel, which happens to be the ubiquitous amounts of shit they give you to throw at them.
Motorbike, oil drum, more drum, trash can, motorbike, more motorbike, the same motorbike, oil.
Just getting beaten to death by your own motorcycle. What a way to go. Guys, you probably are aware of this, but I'm just going to point it out there. The #1 killer of soldiers in the Iraq and Afghanistan war was the country's lethal enemy, soldiers' own vehicles. That's right. Soldiers love motorcycles and they love drinking. And being a 19-year-old with a motorcycle, stone cold sober or not, is a bad decision, right? I read somewhere that within the first year of owning a motorcycle, 99% of people have accidents. Hopefully most of those are just sort of toppling over at a stoplight, but it's just so dangerous to own a motorcycle and be driving and to drive it full stop with anything. And if you have a helmet, it's even more dangerous. Fun fact, the reason America doesn't have a federal helmet law anymore, right now it's based on states, is because insurance companies realized that people kept having this problem when they would get in motorcycle accidents wearing helmets, is that they would be alive. And someone who's alive needs medical care. And that medical care is really expensive. Rehab, surgery, oftentimes multiple surgeries. It's just so brutal what a motorcycle going 80 miles an hour with you totally unsecured, what that can do to somebody, even going 35 and hitting the pavement with no protection. So the insurance companies lobbied to remove the helmet law, and that way the number of people who survive motorcycle crashes is now much lower, and it's way cheaper to just bury someone than it is to heal them, especially after something as traumatic and devastating as a motorcycle crash.
I'm no Danny DeLito trash man, but I'm pretty sure that in combat terms, 1 enemy is equal to 3 trash cans.
I'm the trash man. God damn it. I said I'm the trash man.
The Sable dudes sound amazing because I'm pretty sure they share the voice actor for the Q alert in Counter-Strike.
This is Control. Where are we with Union Square? Let's roll.
But they are laughably incompetent. Like, they claim to be the best in the world, yet they have the shittiest aim on the planet and transport extremely dangerous substances in regular black sedans when an APC the size of a C-130 busts open their best laid plans.
Just be... Guys, this is actually a reasonable security measure. What often happens is that they will use decoy vehicles. Usually they look like regular vehicles because what you don't want to be that easy to identify, like a Brinks truck, right? Everyone loves to rob Brinks trucks because they look like they're full of cash. They look like armored cars. Well, because they are. And if you have to pick up, multiple businesses worth of cash, you don't really have a choice. But if you want to transport a VIP and a small object, you want it to look like a regular vehicle, but you want it to have a Brinks truck level of armor. That's why you often have the tinted Suburbans driven by VIPs. Those are sometimes specially armored trucks. And if you're a real VIP, you may have multiple trucks, and it's not clear which one you or your secure goods are in.
Careful. In the wrong hands, this could...
Don't worry, we're the best in the world. What the hell is that?
Okay, it's not an APC necessarily. It looks like a MRAP, mine resistant ambush protected vehicle, that has the capacity for, I think, six people in the back.
Get off me! We got this!
Yeah, sure looks like it, Chief.
But at least you'll get to see Silver Sable if there's a cutscene.
This is Silver Sablinova, head of Sable International, a private security force.
You harass my men, destroy my equipment, and cost my client millions. Give me one good reason I should not kill you right now.
Aren't you a billionaire that owns your own country? Why do you care about millions of dollars? That's like pocket change.
I feel like they should have added a hyper-aggressive police force like the LCPD on your side so you could have gang fights with Silver Sable, but I guess Insomnia doesn't appreciate my bright ideas.
Sit down, asshole!
This is the LCPD! Prepare to die! I see you, punk! Keep running! You are surrounded! Give me that like you eat lead!
And finally, the Black Cat Heist DLC is extremely fun, extremely short, and basically just 2 to 3 hours of sexual tension from multiple parties.
I really tried going straight. I need to go deeper. Some things I do better alone. I'll call you if I need an extra pair of hands.
Once I crack these files, maybe we can combine my chocolate with your peanut butter.
Whoa, this is pretty brazen.
Do not make a saucy joke out of that.
Her figure is hilarious because now the developers catch bad press for low-cut shirts and massive cup sizes like the last Black Cat. Why not just make your female temptress
Tommy thick? Black Cat, why the fuck are you so damn chunky?
That way, it's just a womanly figure and family-friendly. 10 out of 10.
Who said I'm here for the art?
Wow, that has a lot of value.
I mean, I don't know if Felicia can complain about being a...
Gotta love somebody who's just like, art prices are overinflated and the entire thing is a scam. If you want to know, this is how this scam breaks down. Wow, we are at 50 minutes. Damn, I did a lot of talking. Okay, here's the art world scam. Basically, it's this. You buy art from an up-and-coming artist. You're a billionaire, by the way. Surprise. You buy art from an up-and-coming artist, right? Now what you need to do is you and your friends all buy art from an up-and-coming artist. So you all pay, let's say, $1 million for this artist's paintings. Well, now this artist is one of the hottest new artists because, well, all their paintings sold for $1 million. Now what you need to do is have an art appraiser come in and they will appraise the appreciated value because you bought that art at $1 million, but all his art is now sold out. It's all in the hands of collectors. So you go in, you have your art appraiser, and your art appraiser says, well, these rarely come on the market anymore. And when they do, right, they go for $10 million. So I'm going to appraise your art as being $10 million. You go, great. This is a $10 million asset now. It just increased 10x. Now, of course, if all your buddies sold all their art at once, they probably wouldn't even fetch $1 million. But what's key is that you then donate that piece of art to a museum. And then you have a $10 million tax write-off, meaning that you say, hey, I actually gave $10 million in charitable contributions to a museum, meaning that my income, my taxable income is reduced by $10 million, which if you pay at the highest tax bracket, say, I think it's like 30% in the US, that means you saved $3 million off a $1 million purchase. This is the art scam, and shout out to Black Cat for smashing that scam in the face.
Objectified, given what I have to go through every day.
Spider-Man, you're everything I love about this thing.
Stop objectifying me.
Now there's a guy who puts in the effort.
You know I can hear you, right?
But we all know that she's just a ruse to distract you from the real prize here, Rhino.
Rhino! Why the fuck are you so damn chunky?
Who is so outer space thick that he has his own gravitational pull. So in the end, I love this take on Spider-Man, and it's a masterpiece of a game, except for this horse shit that I'll fondly remember forever, especially my shitposting playthrough.
Aunt May, no. She never could cut carrots correctly. And that's about it. I would like to thank you so very much for watching, and be sure to tune in next.
Okay, I want to shout out to his awesome reptile holding a glass of wine art in the back. He deserves some love for that, man.
It's time when I go to sleep, because this shit took me forever, and I am tired.
Starring Taskmaster. Yeah, as discussed, I don't know who Taskmaster is. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me on this. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/combatvetpaul. Come hang out, right? The stream, I am lucky I'm a small streamer, so when you come by and hang out, you can get some personal attention, right? I'm certainly no Pokemon in any facet, actually. All right, see you guys next time.